further delay, let me introduce Brea Fried, is an associate of the Society of Actuaries, that's an ASA. She has years of experience working in the actuarial field and in the insurance industry. And since 2018, she has dedicated herself to her company, Edge Actuarial, which is an online company that helps people like you get through exams, land actuarial jobs, and much more. Please make sure, as I said, to enter your questions. And without, I don't have anything else to add. And Priya, here you are. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much, Marta. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you today. So today's training is going to be all about really how to pass actuarial exams, but what I really want to focus on today is the mistakes that I have made along the way and that I see a lot of future actuaries make along their journey to passing actuarial exams. So that way you can avoid these things when you are preparing for your first actuarial exams and even other ones down the line. So I started studying for my first actuarial exam probably, I would say about 10 years ago now. And oh, it did not go well. I ended up failing my first exam 2 times before I finally passed it on the third time. And since then, through passing multiple other exams and also helping tons of actuarial students and other future actuaries get through the exam process themselves and get through their actuarial journey, I've been able to really learn what I was doing wrong in those beginning exams and what you can do to kind of avoid those mistakes so that you can hopefully get through them without failing as many times as I did. Failing is not fun. It often leads to demotivation. You might feel like giving up. It can just make you feel like you might want to change career paths. But my hope for you is that by getting through the exams as easily as possible, learning those mistakes ahead of time and being able to avoid them, that you'll be able to pass your exams quicker than I have been able to. So, first, really, I'm going to go through 3 big mistakes I made when I was preparing for my exams and also that I've seen other people make. And if you do have questions along the way, please, please, please ask them right down below. Like Marta said, there's a button that says Q&A, and that's where I'll be taking any questions from. If you put your questions in there right when you think of them, then I'll have a good idea of how many questions there are, and I can save enough time for those at the end of today's training, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. No question is too big, too small. I'm really here to answer any questions you have. That's a big part of this as well. If you have a question, there's probably multiple other people out there that are wondering the same thing and maybe just a little too shy or hesitant to ask it. But please, please, please do everyone a favor and yourself and just go ahead and ask those questions because they will be valuable for you to know and for others. Okay, so my first big mistake that I made, my first big mistake, was kind of using the wrong approach when it came to doing practice questions. So when you're studying for an actuarial exam, typically what I recommend anyway is to go through the study material and then you do tons and tons of practice questions so that you can really get a good feel of what the questions are like, the style of the questions, and really practice solving those questions, especially under a time crunch. So when you're studying for an actuarial exam, you really want to be able to practice that over and over and over again, especially under a time limit. So when I started studying for my first exam, I kind of started to use the approach that you would typically probably use in the classroom. And this was the wrong approach. So many of you might be able to relate to this, but when you are going through a class in school, what you probably would have done is learn a topic and then you did a bunch of practice problems on that one specific topic. And then you learned another topic and then you did a whole bunch of practice problems on that topic and kept on going until you were through all the material and you had done lots of practice problems. So imagine that maybe you had done, let's say, 200 or 300 practice problems, but you did them all right after you learned the topic. That approach is really called the blocking approach. When you learn a topic and then you do questions on that specific topic, and then you learn another topic and then you do questions on that. So that's called the blocking approach. Now, this approach it can work, but it has been proven that for math exams and longer term studying, like you need to do for an actuarial exam, there's actually an approach that works a lot better, and it's called the interleaving approach. Interleaving approach. And with this method, what you're doing is instead of learning a topic and doing questions on that topic and doing that over and over again, what you do is you go through all the material in your course or in your studying your exam, all that material, and then you do a whole bunch of practice problems afterwards. But those practice problems are all jumbled up on different topics. The first question might be on topic C, the second one might be on topic E, the third one might be on topic A. You just never know because they're all randomized. And this approach, like I said, has been proven to be more effective for studying for the type of exams that an actuarial exam is. In case many of you don't know, or any of you don't know, it does take many months for most people to prepare for an actuarial exam. So you won't want to go into your exam assuming that you're going to be done studying in a month or even less than that. You're probably going to want to plan on 4 to 6 months of dedicated studying so that you can actually be fully prepared. And since that is longer term studying, this approach is really going to help uh, to cement those concepts and ideas into your mind and also make sure that you're going to be able to perform well on the exam. And there's lots of research online that you can look up as well on the interleaving approach and learn more about why it's valuable for this type of studying. But the other thing that I really like about this is that it really mimics the exams themselves. So when you go to take an actuarial exam, you're not going to see that all the questions are sorted by specific topics. Instead, they're completely random. You have no idea which question is going to test which topic. And if you practice in that same kind of way as the real exam is going to be, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable when exam time comes around. So that's my first mistake that I made was using the blocking approach rather than the interleaving approach. And I've helped hundreds of future actuaries in studying for their exams. And this is one of the big things that has really helped so many of them be able to pass their exam and something that they often tell me is really difficult at the beginning. And trust me, if you try this, it will be very difficult at the beginning when you're first trying to figure out how to do all these practice problems. But it gets a lot easier and it really helps prepare you better for your exam in the long term. Um, I often see that people really do feel like giving up. They feel like they don't know the content as well as they thought they did. They sometimes get off track with their studying because it's hard at the very beginning. But I promise you, if you follow through on this approach, it is going to benefit you in the long term for your exam. So just on that note, I did mention you want to first study or go through all your study material, and then you want to do a whole bunch of practice problems. Now, I would typically recommend that you go through at least 700 practice problems. You want to do tons and tons and tons of practice problems when you're preparing for your exam. So I recommend, yes, 700 at least. And then not only do you want to do those practice problems, but you also want to then do practice exams. So you're getting even more practice that way. So if there are any questions about this, please, please, please put them into the Q&A. I see one chat there from Marta there, so that's a little extra to add to the interleaving approach. So if you do have any questions, you can put them down below in the Q&A and I will get back to those at the end of the training. Okay, so that was mistake number one, and that doing it this way makes a huge difference for a lot of the future actuaries that I help in passing their exams. And it also started to make a huge difference for me once I started using this approach. All right, so the next big mistake that I made was probably something that many of you can relate to, is that when I was studying for my exam, I was overbooked. I had so much going on. I was in school, I was working a lot. I had a boyfriend at the time, so I wanted to spend time with him. I had family that I wanted to spend time with. I was playing soccer all the time, one of my favorite things to do in my spare time. So I had a lot going on, and for me, a lot of the time studying fell on the back burner because it didn't feel as urgent as all these other things. So things like classes in school, those have a specific time when you have to be there, you have to show up to get the lesson, and they have assignments that are due at specific times. So those became a big priority for me, and showing up for soccer games, that sort of thing. There's all these time like scheduled activities that you have to be at. So there's that, and then there's also my family that I just see and I want to spend time with. A lot of the time, my studying would fall on the back burner because my exam was 2, 3, 4 months away and it didn't feel as urgent. So it started to become a really big problem for me that I wouldn't be able to fit in enough studying, or I would have been able to if I planned better, but I wasn't fitting in enough time to actually fully prepare for an exam. And that meant that by the time exam day come around, I was really stressed. I had been cramming a lot for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I was tired a lot. I was overwhelmed, and it just wasn't a good place for me to be mentally in order to succeed on an exam, especially an exam that I had put so much dedication and work into. So, one of the big things that I find works for future actuaries and definitely would have helped me a lot if I had done it is to make a plan. Now, it might seem a little simplistic, it might seem like it's something that maybe you've heard before, but it's something that I think is often overlooked by future actuaries. But what I recommend you do is to really break down what you're doing, what obligations you have, what things you want to fit into your life at the same time as you're studying for your exam. And you have to really be realistic with yourself if you're going to be able to fit all those things into your schedule. And sometimes I think that you have to make some hard choices around what you're going to possibly temporarily give up or reduce the amount of time you spend doing while you're preparing for an exam. Typically, I would recommend someone prepares for an exam using about 2 to 3 hours per day. So, if you can fit in 2 to 3 hours of studying per day and also keep up with the other activities that you want to do, then that's great. But if 2 to 3 hours needs to come out of other activities in your day to day life, you need to at the beginning of your studying, figure out what is going to be put on the back burner for now and where is that time going to come from? Because it's not just magically going to show up. And I think that's something I kind of expected to happen, that I'd just suddenly have this chunk of extra time where I could spend studying, and it just doesn't happen. So you have to create this realistic and achievable plan for yourself. One thing that I have found to be really helpful for myself is to actually plan out my days. So either the night before or at the beginning of each day, I'll kind of figure out what I want to get done that day. And it doesn't necessarily always have to include studying, although it probably will a lot of the time. But you're going to have other things that you need to get done. Maybe there are assignments in school, maybe you have work projects. There are other things that you have on your plate as well. But if you create that plan at the beginning of the day to really figure out what your priorities are going to be, then that's kind of step one. And step two is figuring out when you're going to get those things done in the day. So are you going to maybe spend the first 2 hours of your day studying for your exam, and then from like, I don't know, 11 o'clock to 3 is going to be spent on work projects, or whatever the breakdown might be for you. But really creating that realistic schedule of what your day is going to be like helps to keep me on track. And it also helps me to avoid doing things that aren't really helping towards my goals, like maybe sitting on the couch scrolling on Facebook or Netflix for 15 to 20 minutes here and there. It takes up a lot of time that sometimes you don't realize that you're using before it's too late, and you suddenly catch yourself scrolling or just watching, I don't know, YouTube videos, whatever it may be. So if you have that plan in place for yourself, then it really allows you to kind of stick to that and know what you're going to get done during, like, what your obligations are during each hour of your day, for example. Now, this does not mean that I encourage you to just do work all day long or study and do all those things, I highly encourage you to also plan things into your day that are things that you enjoy doing. Maybe you like going outside for a walk. That's something that is really important to me. It's something I enjoy doing. It clears my mind, helps me focus, and it's something that I schedule into my day-to-day life. I do that almost every single day. So things like that are still really important for your mental health. And I do think that that's something that future actuaries really have to pay attention to. I see a lot of future actuaries get overwhelmed and stressed because they are trying to get through the exam process and keep up with all their other obligations. So it's really important that you do still include those things that you enjoy doing so that you're not feeling burnt out by the end of the day. You're not feeling burnt out by the end of the week or the month. Those are some things that I really found to be helpful. And this, you also have to remember that studying for actuarial exams has to be sustainable for you. This isn't something that's going to be done in a year. It's not probably going to be done in 2 years. It's going to take a long time. So you have to put things in place to make this a sustainable lifestyle for you, not just this one-off block of time where you're going to have to really put all your energy towards studying. Okay, so I know for many people, preparing for an actuarial exam and figuring out exactly what you need to do can be a bit overwhelming, or maybe you're not even sure how to approach that. If that is you, I do have a free study strategy PDF that you can download that you're welcome to go get. This is on my website, so I will put a link in the chat to that. Or actually, I think this will only go to Marta right now, but she will probably be able to post that into the chat so that all of you guys can get that as well. So basically, this will kind of break down the strategy that I recommend. And that way, you're going to be able to really plan out what you need to do day to day, and it'll help you in this whole planning process. All right, I think that she made that available to everyone now. Thank you, Marta. Okay, let me just check the Q&A. Okay, so great. I do see some questions coming in the Q&A, so keep those coming. I am going to go through one more quick mistake that I made, and then I'm going to get some of these questions answered. And again, if any more pop up, please ask them. So this one's going to be quick because we only have about 10 more minutes. Okay, so I like to start this off with an example. So another thing that I have kind of recently took up is playing pool, so billiards. And I have a pool table downstairs in my basement. I love playing, and I'm gradually getting better and better. I really started like I had never played before at all, and now I've just within the past year or so started playing more and more and really liking it, getting better at it. So I decided that I was going to join a pool league, and basically this is where you can play pool against other people that you don't know. It's like an organized league where you get to just practice your pool skills against other people that are also interested in it. So what I was finding was that I was really able to play a lot better when I was downstairs in my basement where I do the majority of my practicing. I was able to perform a lot better. I got a lot more balls into the pockets, which is the main point of pool. But when I would go play in the league, I suddenly was playing a lot worse than what I could usually do downstairs in my basement. So this really comes from my comfort level. When I'm downstairs in my basement, I feel a lot more comfortable. It's a space that's familiar to me. It's a place where there's no one around watching me. I can just do whatever I want, and I just feel so much more comfortable. There's no pressure. When I go to the league, suddenly there's pressure. I feel like I should win. There's other people watching. There's music all around. It's a place I'm not as familiar with. So it's a lot more intimidating. Well, the same thing happens for people that are studying for actuarial exams. A lot of the time you get kind of stuck in a rut doing your practice exams in your own house. You might have an office that you study in, and that's where you do all your practice exams. Maybe it's an office, maybe you do it at work. But the thing is, when you constantly do your practice exams in a place that you feel 100% comfortable, there's no distractions, there's nothing around you that's going to interrupt you, then it makes it sort of easier to perform well in that scenario. But then when people study in that kind of situation or that scenario, then they go to the exam room and they're in a completely new environment they've never been in. There's people around they don't really know. There are noises that they're not used to. Then it suddenly puts a whole, oh, and also the exam actually counts, so there's more pressure. It puts a whole bunch of extra just stress on you. So what I found to work really well is if instead of just doing all of your practice exams at home in a place where you're comfortable, instead go out to different spots in your community and try doing a practice exam there. So it could be your local library, maybe a cafe or some sort of area where you can sit down. Maybe you usually study at work, so you could, or sorry, at home, so you could try it at work. Just try to switch up where you take these practice exams so that you're really getting exposure to all the different things that could happen that you're going to be exposed to on the real exam day, and that's going to help you feel more prepared when the real exam day comes around. This is something that I didn't do. I did all my practice exams at home in my bedroom. I actually think I was laying on my bed at the time, just doing my practice exams there, and that really didn't set me up for success when I went to take the real exam. All right. So those are my 3 big mistakes that I made and I've seen other future actuaries make. These are things that I've helped future actuaries go through and get over those hurdles and all that sort of stuff. So I hope these were helpful for you. I am going to take some questions now. It looks like there are 4 in the Q&A currently, but if you have any others that popped up while we were going through the training and you want to ask them, please put them in the Q&A now, and I will try to get to those. Okay, so the first question here says, what are your thoughts on using coaching actuaries? So if you're not familiar, coaching actuaries is a brand of study materials. So there are a whole bunch of different companies out there that provide study materials that will help you prepare, help teach you all the material that is on an exam. It will give you lots of practice problems, all that sort of stuff. So coaching actuaries is one of those options. And coaching actuaries is great. They have video lessons that are available. You can also get online manual if you'd like. They also have a really big database of practice questions, and they allow you to take exams in the format that they would look like on the computer screen when you actually go and take your real exam. So that's another way that you can just feel more comfortable because you'll basically be seeing the same screen on your computer as you are seeing on the exam day. So coaching actuaries is definitely a great resource. There are a few other ones out there too that I would encourage you to look into because each material provider has a different style. They might have different options that work better for you. There's different price points. So have a look at all the different options and then use their sample materials to decide which one works best for you. Okay, next question is, are actuarial exams helpful in only the insurance industry, or can it be a key to develop yourself technically in any industry such as economics or financial industries? I would say that actuarial exams are most commonly going to be helpful for getting jobs in the actuarial industry. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work in an insurance company because actuaries can work in many different industries aside from just insurance. But it could help you get into jobs that are in the financial or the economic industry as well, just because actuaries can work in those fields. I have also seen that some employers are, even if they don't hire actuaries, they're also very encouraged by the fact that you are able to pass actuarial exams because it just shows them that you have a strong math capability. It shows them that you're really dedicated to your career. So there are other ways that actuarial exams can be helpful in industries aside from just the actuarial field. The next question is, any source recommendations for practice problems? Yeah, so when I talked earlier about study materials, all the study materials that are available, at least as far as I know, do have practice problems within the within the bundle that you get. That's definitely something I would check out before you purchase is make sure they're going to include practice problems, because it's a very, very, very important part of your studying. There's also practice problems that are provided by the Society of Actuaries for free. So you could go to their website and find those. And maybe if Marta can find those quickly, or actually that would be difficult because there are different practice problems for different exams. So you can find those on the SOA website.
They're in the chat. There's a link on the chat for the past
Oh.
SOA exams and solutions that I added.
Perfect. Great, thank you for that. So yes, you can find a whole bunch of practice problems and past exams there. So that's another really good source. I would highly recommend doing those SOA practice problems because those are coming directly from the source of the organization that creates the exam. So those are a great place to start as well. The last question here is, where can I find virtual study groups for actuaries to study together? There are, as far as I know, not too many places where this can happen. Right now, you are part of the affiliate membership for the Society of Actuaries, so there may be opportunities to connect with other people that are going through this as well. You could also go into some actuarial forums, watch some actuarial YouTube videos where they might mention other places where you could find study groups. But I tend to find if you can even just create a group on WhatsApp or Facebook group, even if you can't necessarily meet up in person, it's still really helpful just to be able to connect with those people virtually, to share what you're going through, your struggles, if you have problems. It doesn't necessarily have to be an in-person thing, and that really opens up a lot of doors for you. So that's all. Oh, was there one more question there I missed? I think there was, actually. Okay, so one more quick question. Any specific tips for exam P? Everything that I've talked about today is really towards all the actuarial exams, but I have really specialized in helping people with exam P and FM. So everything that I've said today is really focused on those two exams specifically. There are also different blog posts and YouTube videos, and there's probably other support in the affiliate membership that you could use in order to find specific tips for exam P, and the other early actuarial exams as well. I would say it's really hard to give specific tips for that exam because the other early exams are very similar. So you're going to be able to find a lot of good advice there. All right.
Thank
So I
you,
think
Brea.
we're pretty much out of time now.
Yes, we are. I just
fine.
want to thank you, Brea, for being with us today and for the fantastic information. I have put on the chat a couple of links that might help you find actuarial clubs to maybe help you find those study groups, the exam practices also, that I put a link in there. And remember that your affiliate membership also allows you to have the access to the MentorLink platform, which can pair you up with a mentor and can help you with any questions you have about exams or the profession, how to blend an internship and things like that. So I'm going to let Brea get on with her day. And if any of you have any questions, follow-up questions, please, I'm going to put my email in the chat and you can email me at martajimenezlutter@soa.org. Thank you. Bye.